Hi, I'm Darren Morton and welcome to Happiness by Design. In this episode, we are going to be pursuing a natural high. We're going to do a little bit of hang gliding and we're going to be speaking to a specialist in outdoor adventure as well. What I'd like to show you first of all is Fred the half-head. And Fred is a resident model. He's generously offered to allow me to delve into his brain. And I'd like to show you the part of the brain that is responsible for how you feel, your emotional brain. It's located right about here, and it's referred to as the limbic system. Now, what I'm going to show you is how your limbic system is wired up, and particularly how it knows how to create a particular emotion. For example, how does it know, if this is your emotional brain, when to make you feel excited, or when to make you feel down, or when to make you feel scared or apprehensive, or any of those emotions? Well, the answer is that it relies on what it is told. And as it turns out, our senses, particularly sight, which is the eyes located about here, sound, our ears out here, and smell. And here's an intriguing one. We'll come to smell a little bit later. But these three senses play a powerful, or have a powerful effect on the state of the emotional hub, your limbic system. Let's first of all consider the issue of sight, the sense of sight. Sights can excite emotional responses like that. And to demonstrate how that can happen, let's look at some hang gliding action. Joined by Dean of the Faculty of Lifestyle Education at Avondale College, Wayne Miller. Thanks for coming aboard, quite literally.
It's great, Darren, to be here.
I'm about to take Wayne Miller on a tandem hang glider, and I've strapped a heart rate monitor to his chest. There you have it. And we're going to see what happens when he's exposed to visual images that he's not entirely accustomed to. What does it do to his heart rate? Ready to go, Wayne?
I'm ready to go, Darren.
Let's do it. So run, run, run. Keep running. Okay, we've just made it successfully down, and the official word on the heart rate tally is not unlike other pilots that I've taken for a ride before. It's nearly reached his maximum. So Wayne, how was that?
Awesome, absolutely awesome.
Worth doing?
Absolutely, yeah. A little bit of motion sickness. Should have taken a pill before I left, but just an amazing experience. Just to feel the wind, just picking up the kite. It is really like being on a moving body of water.
So my question that I'm addressing in this episode is, why is it though that his heart rate would increase just by having certain visual images reach his eye? There is no doubt about it. Visual images can excite emotional responses very rapidly. As we saw in that example, the sight, just the image presented on the back of our retina of a high off place, when we're not accustomed to that, as in the case of hang gliding, changes our emotional response, and that is reflected in symptoms like our heart rate. Our eye, the nerve leading from that, referred to as the optic nerve, leads directly to your limbic system. In fact, there's a couple of connections, but fairly instantly, at a moment's notice, the image presented on the retina, on the back of the eye, goes straight to the limbic system. And in fact, images that we see from the retina hit the limbic system even before they reach the upper parts of our brain, which is the thinking brain. And that explains some interesting phenomena. For example, if you are this way inclined, you can go to a shop, novelty shop, and buy plastic spiders that look just like the real thing. What are they designed for? Well, they're designed for the intent of playing jokes on other people. And if you were to buy one of these, and of course I'm not this kind of individual, but if you were and to go up to a friend, say, and place that rubber spider on their shoulder, this is the kind of thing that you will see happen. The poor unsuspecting victim will sit there, and then when this object is placed there, they'll look, and instantly there is the image of a black spider on the back of their retina, of their eye. That image is reported directly to their emotional brain, and so there is an instantaneous response. It looks something like this. Ah! Like this, as they have this moment of terror. Then what happens is, as the image after hitting the emotional brain, then proceeds to go up to the higher brain, the thinking part of the brain. And you'll see it usually something like this kind of a scenario. Oh, they have the fright and then, there's like a reassurance when they recognise that this is actually not the real thing. So what it's demonstrating is that your sights have a very powerful and instantaneous effect on our emotional outcomes. It's not only just the images though, it's also things like colours we have come to learn. So the colours on the back of the retina actually have different effects on the emotional brain. And so that's why, and we even reflect this in our language. We talk about when people are down, they have the blues. When people are angry, we say they see red. They can be green with envy, not in a pink fit. I don't know where that fits in, but this idea that colours can actually have quite a pronounced effect on our emotional state as well. I remember a little while back, I had to go and have a sunspot taken off my nose, and as I went into the surgery, I looked about and I thought they've been very intentional here. Obviously what they want to do is create in people a sense of calm, and so the walls were that pastel blue colour, and on the wall were these images of landscape type surroundings. And what does that do to us? Well, just being in that environment or being immersed in that kind of context, those visual images, actually changes our emotional state. It helps to relax us, to calm us down, and that's what they're trying to achieve. Imagine if you went into a surgery and it was splattered with red paint on the wall, that would probably excite something or an emotional response that we're not entirely wanting at that particular period in time. It's intriguing that even things like natural light hitting the back of the retina actually can have quite a significant effect on your emotional brain. For example, there's a condition that's reported particularly in the northern hemisphere in higher portions where they have long periods of relatively low light, and they refer to it as SAD, which is seasonal affective disorder. And it's true that people in those states, when they're not exposed to natural light, that they actually manifest symptoms of depression. And so depression and even suicide, sadly, is more common in these kind of environments. Why is that the case? Well, quite simply because the sights that you receive, the images that you see, the colours that you see, the light that you receive can have an effect on your emotional state. And it works that way because you're wired and configured in that kind of an arrangement. It's not just sights though, it's also sounds and smells. And after the break, we'll consider them. Welcome back. Before the break, what we discovered is that your vision, your sight, images on the back of your retina from your eye go directly to your limbic system, your emotional brain, and excite emotional responses. Hence the rubber spider analogy where it gives us a fright, an instant emotional response. But it's not just sights that change our emotional state. It's also sounds and smells. Let's deal with sounds first of all. Do you know your limbic system, your emotional brain, limbo as I like to call it, is wired for sound. There is no doubt about it. I don't think that anyone can deny the fact that a certain rhythm, a certain beat, a certain tune changes us emotionally. And we're wired like this from a young age. You can look at young children when music starts to play, they'll start to tap their feet, they'll start to move to it. There is something about it, and it changes the way we feel. Your limbic system, your emotional brain, is wired for sound. Now that explains some intriguing phenomenon, in fact. That is why, or actually one thing I should point out is that your limbic system, your emotional brain, is also responsible for your memories. So it's the site in your brain that decides what to remember and what to forget. And this explains why it is that often sounds excite, when the limbic system likes those sounds, it excites other functions that it does, such as memories, which explains, I'm getting to. I could start right now, and I'm not going to do this because that wouldn't be pleasant, but I could launch into a song, right? And I could guarantee that probably you would be able to sing along with me. You would know the lyrics, and there's hundreds of these. We could pick songs from, when we were just youngsters at church that go back 20, 30, 40 years. You may not have even sung them for that period of time. And yet, when we start to get into the flow of the rhythm and the tune, all of a sudden the words just start to come back. Now, why is that the case? Well, quite simply, because when you're a little tacker and you started to sing those songs in church, as it may have been, or listen to the radio, and you liked that tune and your limbic system got excited by that and said, yeah, I like this little melody, then what happens? It excited its other functions, one of which is memory, and that resulted in you laying down all of those memories, which is an intriguing thing, isn't it? I mean, we forget our anniversary, we forget our phone number, but we remember all the lyrics to those little songs that we learnt when we were just little tackers. And so, as I said from the outset, sounds play a powerful effect on our emotional state. Your limbic system is wired for sound. And it also explains why things like industrial noise can have such an effect on us in the long term as well. It takes its toll on us emotionally. Let me turn my attention though, and your attention to the last input to the limbic system. And that is, there's quite a large bulb located sort of around here in Fred the half head, but in us it's just behind our nose, and it's called the olfactory bulb. And this particular bulb has a huge nerve. In fact, it's the largest input, right? The largest input to the limbic system, to your emotional brain. And what that means is that this nerve pathway has a potent effect on your emotional state. It turns out the olfactory bulb, as you've probably guessed, located behind the nose, is responsible for your sense of smell. In fact, this is so pronounced that there was a time when we would refer to the limbic system as the rhinencephalon. Well, that's a big word, but encephalon just refers to the brain. Rhine, well, the rhinoceros gets its name for this reason. Rhine refers to the nose, and the rhinoceros obviously has the big horn there, and that's why it's labelled as such. This was quite literally going to be called your smell brain, because the sense of smell has such a powerful effect upon it. Now, this explains some interesting things. I mentioned to you before that your limbic system is also responsible for your memories. And so this is why. Have you ever been walking along and minding your own business when all of a sudden you just catch the faintest whiff of a particular scent? It drifts into your nostrils, it excites the olfactory bulb, which goes to the limbic system, and the limbic system says, hey, I remember that smell, and it starts to drag up all of the memories associated with it. And I imagine that you probably have particular smells that hold very powerful memories for you. I had one friend one time say that whenever he smells burnt toast, he is, as a kid, once again, sitting there at Grandma's table. Now, I'm assuming that Grandma isn't such a great cook. For me, it's coconut oil. If I just catch the faintest whiff of coconut oil, instantly, it's the mid-80s, I'm on the beach, and I'm just looking out over those gorgeous waves as they break on the shore there. You probably thought I was going to say something different there, didn't you? But this is the reason for it. Smell has such a powerful effect on your limbic system. What's intriguing, you may have noticed, is that smell and taste are the same things. They're the same sense. If you can't smell things, if you have a cold or you block your nose, then generally you can't taste very well either. That's a good way to get down food. When I was a little tacker at my grandma's house, that's the way I would eat most of my meals, to try and negate the taste. She was a good cook, but just some of the foods I didn't have the palate for. So what this is, the intriguing thing about this then, is that it explains why often your feeding habits, your sense of taste, is affected so powerfully by your emotional state. You see, when your limbic system feels down or flat, often it will look around and say, I want a pick-me-up. Where can I get a pick-me-up from? And it looks at all of the inputs to it, and we learnt earlier that comes from the attention part of the front part of the brain. It looks at it from the eye, I should say. We also learnt that it comes from the sound, and so sometimes we'll gravitate towards putting on music to pick us up. But most powerfully, it loves this huge nerve here, leading to the olfactory bulb. And often this is why we find ourselves feeding to try and pick ourselves up. And so this is why people's emotional state quite so often has effect on their feeding behaviour. We find boredom is another good example of this. You know, essentially boredom is just emotional apathy. blankness. There's nothing going on. And so this limbic system here goes, I'm bored, I need a hit. And what you do is find yourself standing in front of the open refrigerator saying, what am I doing here? Well, it just drove you there. That little part of your brain has pulled you to that site because it knows there's some goodies in there and I like what I get from it. So what does all this mean? Well, essentially what it means is that your sights, your sounds and smells bombarding our system constantly. And we don't even recognise the extent to which this is happening. But this constant immersion in the environment changes us, has an impact upon us at an emotional level. And so what does that mean? Well, it means that we need to be very aware of the natural environment in which we are immersed in, because it can change us emotionally and it can be very powerful. So what can we do? How can we use that to our best effect? Well, join me after the break to find out. Welcome back. So just to recap on what we've discussed so far, the way your brain is configured, particularly your emotional brain, is such that sights, sounds, and even smells have a potent effect on our emotional state. And you know what? When we consider the environment in which we were designed to exist in, to be immersed in, it's the natural one. And so I caught up recently with outdoor adventure specialists to talk about just how potent the natural environment can change us. Welcome, Wayne.
Hey, how you going, Darren?
Very well. We meet in a slightly different environment than we met last.
We do, certainly. This is my environment, that was yours.
I think you're exactly right. Now, speaking of environment, whereabouts are we? Well, actually, let me first of all, what are we in?
We're in sea kayaks, Darren. These are very capable instruments, and they are capable of going in these quiet waters like this, but they're also very capable in the ocean. So we can take them into the ocean. We could paddle to Tasmania if we wanted to.
I might leave that for the experts at this present time.
No problem.
So where are we at the moment then?
This is Lake Macquarie. This is Australia's largest saltwater lake, open to the ocean, just down there at Swansea. And it's fed by Dora Creek, which is where Avondale College is situated.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
so we could actually get here from Avondale College?
We could go to Avondale from here.
Well, once again, might leave that for the expert. Yeah. But you obviously spend a fair bit of time out here.
I do. This is an environment that I love to get it into as much as I can.
Now, you're the Dean of the Faculty of Lifestyle Education at Avondale College, but you actually spend a fair bit of your time not just in this environment on your own, but actually leading other groups and taking people out there.
Yeah, outdoor education is my world.
Outdoor education. So I'm interested, what is it that attracts you to that? What is it that really gets you going about?
Apart from my personal enjoyment of it, I really do love to see the effect that it has on the students that we take into the outdoors. It seems to have a very unique effect away from their normal daily lives, away from the college, the busyness of their lives, assignments and so forth. We can take them into an environment where they can be in the natural world, have a experience with their friends, sit around campfires at night, discuss the experiences. So it's a really strong relational thing, and I love that.
Yeah.
And I get to meet a new set of students every subject, every time it comes around.
Yeah. There is actually, from a social perspective, and I want to talk about other elements in just a moment, but even from a social perspective, there's no television around a campfire, isn't it? It does something well for us to be able to sit around, actually dialogue, communicate, and
that's right. Everything's natural. The wood, the fire, warming your toes, being able to discuss the day's activities, to just be seen and to see my students in a different light and they see us in a different light. It's a wonderful thing.
So there's that relational element, but there's other things, obviously, the outdoor environment, the outdoor context offers, and what are they? Yeah,
well, when you come away from the built environment into a natural world, it seems that we connect with, for me, with the natural world that God provided for us. And students say that in their comments, in their responses, because they reflect on the experiences. They have to do that as part of their assignment work. But in reflecting on those experiences, they many times mentioned, this got me closer to God, this got me closer to the natural world, and I was able to see God in a different light.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned that. As a college student many years ago, my summertime job was as a lifeguard down one of the ocean beaches in Victoria. And I remember you would actually just be in that environment from sun up to sundown, and to watch the tides go out and the tide come in and the change in swell and the sun. I don't know, there was something, there's almost like a synchronisation that takes place within us. You know, there's like a new, you know, it's a communing almost. And I actually, you know, I can sort of reiterate that. That was a very, almost a spiritual experience.
Definitely a spiritual experience. And, you know, whether it's the high adventure for me in the surf where I'm being knocked around, tumbled over, having to pop myself back up again when I get knocked down, or whether I'm paddling, you know, the rivers. I've done a couple of marathon river paddles, you know, where you start off in the day, you paddle through the night, you bob down the river, you see the moon come out, you just are on a totally enjoyable, wonderful experience, you know, with others. All of those environments, they have their own unique kind of ways of dealing with our spiritual being and to leaving us satisfied, you know, that we were able to be connected with it.
Yes.
It's a great thing.
And I like you've picked up on that. The natural world does cater for all of our heart's desires, I suppose. And,
it does.
You know, you mentioned the high adventure stuff.
Yeah.
And I mean, we went for hang gliding.
That's right.
And that's another world. I imagine you get into some high adventure scenarios in these things.
Absolutely.
Here too.
I've got a little sail I put on the front of this thing.
Right.
And when the wind is really howling, I love to put the sail on. Frightens the life out of you sometimes when you're howling down a wave like this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the heart rate, she's going, mate.
So there's that high adventure element, but like you say, this restoration that takes place.
Absolutely. And it's another mood entirely. You know, here we are on the lake now. Just see how calm and beautiful it is. It's doing something to me just while we're here.
Yeah.
It's setting me up for the day.
Yeah.
It'll be busy, but right now I can be calm. I can just say, thank you, Lord, for this beautiful environment that you gave to
You know,
us.
and from a physiological perspective, and obviously as a physiologist I keep thinking about this, just the way we're wired, you know, the sights, you know, I mean, this is just incredible. You know, the sounds, the smells, you know, there's something about it that floods our senses and does us the world of good from an emotional perspective.
Absolutely.
And a spiritual one too.
Yeah. Look, I'm sure, you know, when God made us about, 60-70% water anyway, we've got a strong affinity with this water and the air that we breathe, you know, that's the natural world and we're part of it, we're made from it.
Yes.
So, yeah,
now,
I agree.
I've got to ask you a question because I've been roped to hop into one of these things, but what, I failed to ask the question, what actually happens if we fall over?
Probably if you fall over, you're in trouble.
Right.
If I fall over...
Thanks for that.
If I fall over, I roll back up, get going.
Really? Would you perhaps like to demonstrate that for me?
I'd love to do that, Darren.
All right, well, let me hold your hat and your glasses and we'll go for it.
Yeah, sweet.
Let me just remove myself from the scene of the crime. Fantastic! Woohoo! Wayne, I would like to thank you for inviting me into your world this morning. I know I'm going to have a great day for it.
You're very welcome.
I imagine as an expert in this adventure area, this outdoor context, you'd encourage other people to immerse themselves in this kind of environment more often also.
That's my life. That's what I do. Get into it, folks.
It really should come as no surprise to us that immersing ourselves in the natural environment can change us and uplift us in an emotional way. After all, that's the way God designed us. Join us next episode as we look at not just the natural environment, but how the social environment can affect us at an emotional level as well. Till then, remember to delight in God's design.